What's up guys, my name's Liam and today we're going to be doing our second installment of the Artisan series where we're going to be reviewing every single Artisan pad in detail. Today I'm going over the Artisan FX Kou in Mid XL. Is this a pad that I recommend for you? Let's find out. So what you're going to do when you go into the Artisan website can be a little confusing. You're going to see a tab for the Classic series. You're going to see the FX series. You're also going to see the RM series. I recommend sticking to the FX series. These have been my favorite pads out of all of them. I'll be doing a series breaking down going from the slowest Artisan pad all the way up to the fastest one. The first video was about the FX0. I'll put a link down in the description. So if you guys are interested in watching that, go check it out. I will be comparing each pad to one another as we move through the series. So when purchasing this pad, you're going to notice a bunch of different options. It comes in different sizes. You're going to have a medium, a large, and an extra large. Also, there's going to be different thicknesses of the pads. You're going to have an X soft, a soft, and a mid. The X soft comes in at 4 millimeters. The soft comes in at 3.5 millimeters. And the mid comes in at 3 millimeters. The differences between the three is the X soft and the soft, they feel pretty similar. You do notice a big difference in the thickness, in my opinion, especially when going from the mid to the X soft. However, with the X soft and the soft, they do have a pretty similar feeling. Whereas the mid, I feel like the mid kind of stands out in its own because the mid is pretty firm compared to the X soft and the soft. When choosing a difference with this pad between the three versions, what it really comes down to is the X soft will have the most stopping power, whereas the mid has a more consistent glide, but it might not stop on the dime as easily as with the X soft. You can really push your mouse into it or push your palm into it very easily to give you a little extra support when you're tracking your shots or flicking your shots. With the three Hyate version pads, these are some of their highest quality pads. I have tried the mid, the soft, and the X soft versions in them, and honestly, I haven't noticed any major issues across the three. They all perform pretty consistently throughout time, and they have the same expected durability and strength that you'd expect from ordering these premium pads. The Hyate series are a bit more expensive. The XL version of this pad actually comes in at 5,900 yen. That's about equivalent to 43 US dollars. So total cost of this pad with shipping, you're going to be looking at about $60 to $70 to get this pad shipped to your front door. And my experience with ordering these pads is it does take a little over 2 weeks before you'd actually receive it to your front door typically. The Artisan pads are basically consisted of 3 layers. You have the bottom layer, which is made of Poron. And when I first received the Poron base, it was kind of different to get used to because I was so used to just using cheap rubber pads. But I will tell you, over time, I have grown to love Poron, and it's honestly hard for me to go back to rubber ever since I started using it. The pad is easy to move around if you need to make any adjustments to it, but at the same time, once you do lay it flat and you get your mouse on it, I don't get any play with this pad when I'm using it for gaming. The middle layer of this pad is what Artisan describes as a single foam of structure. I don't know what it is about these pads. As I've told you, I've owned these for over 4 years. And when I purchased these pads, they came in these boxes rolled up. But I can tell you guys from firsthand experience, having these pads rolled up for all the years, every time I take it out, I have absolutely no issue. They've never had a problem with sitting flat. They instantly sit flat and they stay on there perfectly. Every time I use these pads, I'm just always blown away by the quality. And I was actually reviewing newer pads this weekend that I just got. I put on my desk and I couldn't get, I'm not going to name any names, but I could not get it to go flat all day. It basically stood up, and these just always go perfectly flat for me. I have no issues with them at all whatsoever. The surface of this pad, similarly to the FX0, is made of polyester. However, it's made with a different process and they use a jacquard weave. Overall, the quality of the surface of this pad has been an incredible experience. I personally have not come across any issues with it or complaints with the surface of this pad. With the FX0, two of the major drawbacks in my opinion is the fact that that pad stays dirty all the time. It's so hard to keep clean and always gets these little random hairs in it. However, this pad still being made of the same material with polyester, I have not had any of those issues at all with this pad whatsoever. Every once in a while, I just give it a gentle clean. So when you first get this pad out of the box, there is a small wear-in time. With this pad in particular, it has been by far the hardest surface, not only to get used to, but to break in as well. The Hyate Kou features a different glide speed from the Y to the X axis. The Y axis feels much more similar to the original, just plain Hyate pad. It's very smooth, very little resistance or friction along the Y axis. Where this pad gets extremely different and unique compared to any other pad that I've ever used before is the X axis. There is a lot of resistance. My first impressions of owning this pad is how weird and unique it was. And to be completely honest with you, when I first got this pad, I just absolutely hated it. And I know that that's a weird statement to make. My style with a fingertip to relaxed claw grip, I just can never get used to the difference of it. And it's unlike anything that I had ever used before. I can say that I have honestly shifted from hating it to understanding it better and being okay with it as the pad broke in. Because once I got it, the X-axis on it was just, it seemed really extreme and really rough. If I had to describe this pad with the difference between this and the FX0, the FX0 does feel like a bit of a slower pad. When you have your mouse at a standstill on the FX0, and when you go to take off and start moving your mouse, you do notice a bit more of that initial static friction of the mouse just sitting there, and it takes a bit to go from being stopped to start gaining speed. However, with the FX0, once you get gliding, it has a pretty consistent and fast glide speed across the board. And with the FX0, it comes to a stop easier. With my experience with using this pad, there is a slight bit of initial friction taking off when you're moving your mouse from a dead stop. Not as much as the FX0, but where this pad differs from the FX0 is the FX0, once it gets going, I said there's a smoother glide. This one, it's a bit more of a rougher glide. It feels slightly faster than the Zero, but the best way that I can describe it through my experience is that this pad feels like an overall rougher pad from left to right. Again, when I'm talking about these features, I'm specifically referring to the X-axis. The Y-axis up and down is buttery smooth and it's incredibly quick. However, with the X-axis, when you're moving your mouse from left to right on this with PTFE feet, it has a scratchier, rougher feeling, and the glide isn't as smooth as the FX0 in my opinion. Over the years, I have seen people recommend this pad, but it's honestly been very few. I have heard people say that they recommend this pad for games like Overwatch, but to be completely honest with you and quite frank, I can't think of too many games that, through my personal experience, that I can honestly truly recommend this pad as being the best pad for. Now again, the quality of this pad is just unbelievable. It's next level. It's an incredible pad. The consistency is there, quality there, everything's great. And with that being said, I do want to say that I actually did kind of find a sweet spot with this mouse pad. I feel like this mouse pad is pretty consistent and gives you pretty good results if you do use glass skates. I have a lot of experience using glass skates. When they burst out on the market, I was all about them and I loved them. But then through time, I found there was a bit more inconsistency with glass skates. However, what I have found is that I did enjoy using this pad on glass skates. For whatever reason, I don't know if it's the rougher, scratchier X-axis. I feel like it did give me a lot more consistency with glass skates, and with the control, it did make glass skates a little more usable for me. Here we just have a bunch of random offerings that I've been testing out with this mouse pad and trying it out. And the thing, like I told you, that's really crazy about this mouse pad is how it interacts. With the FX0, what I noticed is when you use a mouse like the G Pro Superlight, I feel like it was like kind of the best combo to where you get the most out of the mouse pad and it feels the best. It's got that quick glide once you get going, but you get to take advantage of the immense stopping power with the size of the skates. With this pad, I do feel like it is opposite. So I actually feel like this pad is a worse performing pad, or should I say a harder performing pad, when you're using the bigger skates. So when you're moving around with the G Pro Superlight, the amount of friction that you get as you're moving along the X-axis is immense. It does feel buttery smooth when you're using the Y-axis, but just going left to right, it's really hard. And another anomaly that I've had about this pad is how random it is with all these different skates. Like it does get easier and it does get better with the smaller skate feet. I feel like there's less scratchiness happening and the pad feels smoother and more consistent. But again, it's just a hit or miss, because with the HTS PLUS, the 4K edition, for whatever reason, that's what the skates look like there. This mouse pad, this is probably the worst performing mouse on this mouse pad. And I was like, okay, well, if this mouse feels so weird on this mouse pad, how does the HTX feel? Because the HTX, as you can see, I mean, it kind of has a similar design. It doesn't have the separates up here, and that could be a difference. But the HTX does not, I don't have that same weird scratchy feeling as I do with the HTS Plus. So I don't know what's causing that. I don't know what it is. It could be something with the front skates, with the design there. I'm not too sure, but definitely a different feeling overall. So with that being said, some of the best mice that I would recommend for this mouse pad is I would probably put the G Pro Superlight somewhere down at the bottom with the HTS Plus. And again, just because for whatever reason I'm having an issue with those feet. But then where it starts to get easier is once you come, the Lamzu Atlantis doesn't do that bad, but once you start getting to the smaller skates with less obvious friction there is when it starts to feel better. And between the Final Mouse, honestly, the Ninjutsu Sora and the Final Mouse feel really similar on this. I would say that the Lamzu Atlantis Mini, in my experience, is one of the best feeling mice feet on this pad. The HTX actually feels great for whatever reason. Maybe just because they're so small and thin. Even though you do have more surface area there, you don't have just the small dots on the ends. The HTX, for whatever reason, feels great on here. So honestly, I'd probably put this like somewhere like this. So Lamzu Atlantis Mini from being the best and then going down to worst this way. So, and the best mouse by far, as I had mentioned, I was messing around with some different glass skates. I do have the glass skates on some of my final mice. I do have them on, I did have a set of glass skates with my G Pro Superlight. So I had a bunch of different glass skates, but overall, the glass skates on this feel pretty good. They feel consistent. For whatever reason, the scratchy surface and the glide on these glass skates, the consistency just feels great. It's just spot on. I was actually playing Apex Legends all night using this combination with the glass skates in this pad. And I was getting some pretty decent results. Nothing mind-blowing or next level or anything like that, but overall, yeah, I was having a much more enjoyable experience with that combo. What I'm going to do for you guys really quick is I'm going to drop a quick sound test with all of these mice. That way, just to give you an idea what I'm talking about. And then I'm also going to throw on the FX0 in between while I'm doing the sound test, just so you can see the differences and see if you guys can really hear what I'm telling you guys about, where it just sounds like a scratchier pad going from left to right. Right here, this pad on the left, this is the Hyate Kou, and the pad right here on the right is the FX0. All right, guys, so there you go. As you can see, again, it's really hard for me to explain. I want to try and do the best that I can. And the best way, again, that I can describe this is if you're using a cloth pad, such as the Artisan Zero, you do notice a little bit more friction, but again, it's more of like a smoother type of a friction, to whereas with the Hyate Kou, it's more of a scratchier type of a friction. But as you can clearly hear from the sound tests, it just sounds like an overall scratchy pad. With that being said, yeah, it is kind of uncomfortable on your skin going back and forth. I'm not a player that typically has these type of issues. So if you're a palm grip user or you like to slide your arm around in your mouse pad a lot, I could seeing that kind of be uncomfortable or being somewhat of an issue. I don't really have that issue when I play. I'm more of a fingertip, relaxed claw grip type of a person. So I do swipes and stuff like that. But as you can see there, when I play, I'm mostly just using the motion of my wrist. I do like to use my palm for support. and I kind of just glide my hand along the mouse pad. So I don't do a whole lot of movement with my arm or anything like that. So I didn't have any issues with it personally, being rough on my skin. But again, if you're a person that likes to slide around left and right, I wouldn't say it's too much of an issue, but there is some friction there. So you might want to wear a sleeve, or if this pad isn't going to be for you, maybe just consider something else. So when it comes to cleaning these pads, that I mentioned before, these pads are really easy and great to clean. I don't recommend using a vacuum or anything like that. Don't do that if you're going to clean these pads. Some of the best ways to clean these pads is just a microfiber cloth. And if you need to spray it with anything, I recommend getting a spray like Lysol and spraying down the surface and then wiping it down. If it does need a bit of a deeper clean, if you've waited a while, if you've spilled something on it, anything like that, you can just throw it in the bathtub, put some gentle soap on it. You can just rub gently in one direction with a washcloth, rinse it off when you're done, and you'll be good to go. All right, guys, so that's basically my final thoughts on the Hyate Kou. Again, I'm not trying to deter anyone from owning this mouse pad. I'm just trying to be as upfront and honest with you about as I possibly can. As you can tell, not really my type of a pad. It has nothing to do with anything to do with the build quality of this pad or nothing like that. No issues there. But personally, I just couldn't find any great use for it with my play style, other than using the glass skates. But aside from that, if you are somebody out there that's looking for a slower X-axis and a faster Y-axis, this could absolutely be the perfect pad for you. Please, if you have had experience with this pad, let me know how you feel down in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Is there a play style or a game where you actually prefer using this pad with other than Overwatch? Definitely let me know. I look forward to hearing what you guys have to say. Other than that, if you like this video, please subscribe so you can see more videos like this in the future. Until next time, thank you guys for watching.